Onda Magazine presenta
Que Onda Houston. As you know, Que Onda Magazine has been around for 30 years delivering you news about our Hispanic community, and today is no exception. We have the honor of having Esmeralda Obispo with us. She's a notable Houston and Pasadena food influencer with over 100,000 followers on Instagram and a growing platform on TikTok. It's almost reaching 60,000. So we have a pleasure of having you here, Esmeralda. Thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So Esmeralda, you know, food is a very important part of our culture. I want to say that even for some Hispanic, it's like a love language, kind of. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, absolutely. That's also one of the reasons why I started. It is one of the ways that our people, nosotros somos mexicanos, that's the way that we express what we feel, we love. It's how we express, it's our purpose, it's our everything.
Yes, I agree with that. You know, I'm Honduran, and I know my parents, like, that's how they show their language. And so I know I'm not the only one who appreciates your content. I know you have, over 100,000 followers. So we know that there's so many people that appreciate your content. But we want to know how you got started. What inspired you to go down this path?
What inspired me? So that's a big, tough question. So I would say my mom and my dad. And I know everyone says, que mis padres, but for me, it was really my mom and my dad. My mom is a waitress and my dad is a chef, cocinero. So for me, I grew up around food. And what I mean about that, everyone grows around food, but for us, it was a real serious thing. My dad was a chef, estudió en la Ciudad de Mexico. They moved over here, and for years, every single event, every single party, everything always had to do with food, whether my mom or my dad were going off to work, whether we were hosting something at the house, it was always that. And I knew from a very young age that a lot of the functionality of like the household was around food. So, and then growing up in Houston, that's like the only thing we go out to do. Like that's an activity, that if you're planning something, you're planning where to go to eat. That's where it came from.
Awesome. And is this like a full-time career, or do you balance it with other like professional commitments?
This year was the year I decided to do this full-time. So yes.
Awesome.
Yeah, it is.
How has the shift been for you? Coming out to be full-time. How has your life changed?
It's changed a lot. I come from the corporate girl, so I was used to gray and cold and sitting behind a computer for 8 hours a day and thinking about, the most interesting thing that would happen is like, hey, what are you having for lunch today? And then everyone that was like the office conversation. Driving in traffic, at 6 in the morning, dealing with all of that horribleness. Versus now where I get to meet so many wonderful people through what I do. Yeah. It's visiting new places and going to events and knowing more and feeling a lot more connected with everyone in Houston.
Awesome. I'm really glad that I want to say, like, you find this work more fulfilling. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. That's great to know. And, you may know Esmeralda as Antojoshouston. And I know that you're on Instagram, on TikTok. Is there any other way we can also connect with you?
It's just Antojoshouston.
Antojoshouston.
Yeah, it's Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
You help a lot of people, satisfy any antojos, which is cravings. Can you tell us a little bit about how you picked that name?
Absolutely. Okay. So the name comes from, I think I spent a month or 2 months, I think it would be 2 months, where, after my corporate job, but before becoming an influencer, I also worked as a business developer for a social media managing company. So I worked under a creator named Houston Scott Spice, which is also really big here. And one of the first tips that she gave me was change your Instagram handle. Your Instagram handle has to be in direct correlation with who you are and what you do. It's that first hook. So I thought about it. I took what she said to heart, and I was like, okay. And then I went to my corporate job, and like they knew what I was doing. So I was like, hey, give me like ideas. Yeah. And everyone had a different suggestion, and we had like, I got some ridiculous ones. Like I think one of them was, and this is a joke, que es Dora la comedora, which yeah, that was ridiculous. So things like that. Yeah. And then finally, I remember being at home, and I was like, okay, today is the day. And at first, I think I changed it to antojoshouston, and I was like, no, that's not right. And Instagram only allows you to change it like a couple of times. Okay. So I put, no, it's fine. Let's do antojoshouston. And then that's how that became.
Awesome. And now you help a lot of people. If they didn't have an antojo after seeing your videos, they have antojos now, yeah. You know, and they have a lot to choose from. And so that's really awesome. And, you know, we see as followers, we see about like 30 seconds, but we know that's no measure to all the work that you put behind the scenes. Can you tell us a little bit about what kind of preparation goes behind the scenes, like from selecting the restaurants to editing your videos and even script, because you have a great voice, so we love the script that you bring to your videos.
Okay. I think the script is about the funniest part of the process. Everyone is always like in shock sort of to find out that I actually spent about 2 hours re-recording that script over and over and over and over again, because it is about the pace, it is about what you are going to say, it is about the tone that you are going to say it, it is about if there's, I know for one video that my fire alarm was like going off. Well, because I didn't replace the battery, but I didn't know that. Yeah. I didn't realize it until later, but it was a whole deal. Yeah. Everyone is really mad. But little things like that, or like if all of a sudden a car passes, I mean, I live in Pasadena, so if a car like passes by, yeah, it's a whole deal. But I think the easy part would be capturing the content. Capturing the content is going to the restaurant. It takes me about an hour to get everything. Then another hour to edit. And then the voiceover is what takes the longest part of the process.
Interesting. And when you go to these restaurants, do you have sort of like an idea what you're going to capture? Or is it more like a surprise? Like you kind of like do it on the go?
I like to take a look at the menu before I go, but you can never exactly know. At some point, I was asking restaurants to like send over the list of the dishes that they were going to want on the video. But now it's just like it's always a surprise.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. And how do you select the restaurants? What makes them stand out?
That has also been a growing process. So in the beginning, I was bored, and my sister and I, or just being by myself, we would get in the car and just drive. And then whatever building popped up, like we wouldn't even put it like on our phones. It was just driving. And then whatever we encountered, that's where we would go, and I would make a video. Then it turned into research. I found research is not very helpful, just because it's so much information coming from all sorts of places. So now it's transitioned into restaurants will reach out, and then that's how we will go through. We'll check it out to see if it meets certain requirements, how it looks, and then we'll go. So it's always very different, and there's still times where I just walk into a place and then that's what I decide to do.
Awesome. And for those restaurants that are hoping, for you to like feature them, can you like explain the process? What is the best way for them to connect with you?
Just a DM or email, both are on all of my accounts, and They just send me this, hey, I need help with this, and then we'll look through them and then explain the entire process, because everyone thinks it's like this long entire process when it's really not.
Okay, awesome. And you had your life in the corporate now you're a food influencer. Have you experienced any challenges in your now job as a food influencer?
Absolutely. I think at some point, influencers only looked and sounded a certain way. When all of this started during, me wanting to do this started during COVID, when taking out food was so popular, and like that's when Instagram boomed with food influencers. Every single post that I saw was representing some other culture that wasn't Hispanic or Latino. It was mostly Asian. It was mostly everything else but Hispanic. So, and all of the audio was the same. And so I would sit there and I'd be like, well, darn, I want someone that sounds like me. I want the music that I listen to. I want, I want someone to take a picture of like some really good tacos and like with some corrido in the background. Like, yeah. I want that. So once I started creating, going to those events and running into those circles where other influencers were, it was very difficult for me to be accepted. It was very difficult for them to take me seriously or see me as a serious influencer, because I didn't sound like them, because I didn't produce the same type of content as them. Yeah, I think that has been the biggest challenge. But now I feel like we're starting to get a lot more of that. So it's really cool to see so many other Spanish-speaking influencers creating content.
They probably were inspired by you.
I would hope so.
Yeah. How did you overcome those challenges that you experienced? What helped you? Were there like maybe a particular someone that helped you out or gave you some advice?
I wish I could say I'm cool enough to be like, no, I did it by myself, but no. There was a lot of crying. It was a lot of talking to my family, particularly my sister and my brother and my mom and my husband, and me like expressing this discontent with the way that I was being seen or treated or DM'd or commented on posts, and them constantly reminding me that it was all part of the growing process, that was normal, that it meant that I was doing something right, and them encouraging me to toughen up and to change my perspective about how I was treating all of this, I want to say nonsense, but all of this negative feedback.
Awesome. Yes. I bet you have a lot to share with other people who are aspiring to be a food influencer like you. What would you say to someone who is Latina like you or Latino, going into the food influencer field, or also like anyone in general, anyone regardless of ethnicity or background?
To just get it done. If that is something that they want, to just do it, to not plan, to not spend their time planning how they're going to make a reel, how they're going to make content, to just go out there and actually get it done, because it is the only way that it will get done. Like, you won't stop being embarrassed about taking content in front of people unless you practice it. You won't get better at creating that content unless you practice it. And if your fear is that you're only going to get a couple of views, or that or that it's not going to give you the results that you want, I'd like to remind them that there is an audience for everything. We spend so much time on our phones. Like, I would love to see a video of you like washing the dishes. I don't know, whatever it is that you want to create. There's always going to be someone that is going to watch that content and be, happy with it.
Awesome. Awesome, that's really great advice. Muchos consejos para esos que están aspirando a ser como tú. Me alegra mucho.
No como yo, pero que quieren hacer eso, sí.
Awesome. And can you remember, like, maybe when the first comment that you received on one of your videos, or maybe like the first ones that really meant a lot to you? What was that like for you? Or when did you know that, man, I'm heading in the right direction? When did you know that?
I think a month after, well, not a month, on the second reel that I created, a month in, I went from 1,000 followers to 5,000, I want to say, in 1 month. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Everything happened really fast.
Oh, wow.
I hit 100,000 in less than a year. So after the month, like everything just happened really, really fast. And that's after the first month, I knew that I was doing it right and that it was going to work out. So I guess to answer your question, it was when I looked at the insights.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And you know, I see your content and I see that there's so many people like commenting, hey, like basically tagging other people like, hey, let's check this out. And how do you incorporate those comments, that feedback that you get from your audience into your content? En otras palabras, para esos que hablan español, ¿cómo utilizas la feedback que te dan las personas, ya sea en comentarios, para tu contenido?
You follow the trends.
Mm-hmm.
Si veo que un restaurante con cierto tipo de música, con ciertos captions, hizo muy bien, and then I mimic that. I continue creating something similar to that. I can typically tell when something is going to perform well based on how I would personally react to it, because I am my audience. I am, 20-something-year-old Latina living in Pasadena, so I know what the people are gonna like because it's something I would like.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm. So I use a little bit of the insights. I use a lot of people as well. Anytime I meet someone, I ask them, what's your favorite restaurant, or is there anything that you can recommend to me? And if a lot of people are mentioning the same place, it's because the place is good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And are there any other ways that you also engage with your audience, either through comments or DMs? How do you engage with them? Comments. Because it's so many people,
It's a lot. So it's comments, DMs, and I also like to have lunch with them. So every so often I'll put something on my stories, just asking people to join me for lunch, and then we'll go out and have lunch.
Awesome. Mm-hmm. Well, now you know, she said.
Yes.
That's great, Esmeralda. Nos alegra mucho que tú estés creciendo y estés brindando atención a muchos restaurantes que, como tú dices, antes no tenían esa atención. And you're doing great.
Thank you so much.
And, outside of your work as a food influencer, what does Esmeralda do for fun? Like, what are your hobbies, your interests? Tell us a little bit about that.
I love going to the movies, which I don't know if that's a hobby, but that's what I do. That, hobbies and books and crossword puzzles. And I'm a mom. I don't know if being a mom is a hobby, but I mean, it's a job. It's everything is family, antojoshouston, and then me. Mm-hmm. So if family and antojoshouston are not taking up my time, the very little time that is left for me, it will be doing that, going to the movies, crossword puzzles, or reading. I'm a very important person, I'm sorry.
No, I love going to the movies. Okay. Me encantan las películas. I even got the subscription to AMC.
Yes, I've been ever since they came out with that. I've been thinking about it, but I'm just a premiere, just so I can skip the line. But other than that,
yeah, I get that. And now, talking about Esmeralda, and you reviewing all these food and restaurants. Are there any particular dishes or cuisine that have a special meaning to you, or maybe they're tied to your family history or a memorable experience?
I would say all of the dishes that are tied to my family can only be made at home. It's very difficult for me to find something outside of the house. Just because my mom is from San Luis, so everything she makes is, when she does cook, is, I don't know, very her. So for her, it would be like entomatadas, which, where are you going to find really good entomatadas? Like, a lot of restaurants don't focus on that dish because it's such a simple dish. For my dad, he's from Oaxaca, and his is mole, which mole is a whole debate in itself about who has the best one in the city, which to my belief, I haven't found that yet. Yes. So does that answer your question?
It does. Are you also requesting help? Like, hey, if you guys know of traditional Oaxaqueña food, should they DM you if they happen to find?
Oh, absolutely, like yes. Especially because I feel like we only have like 2-3 restaurants that make authentic Oaxacan food. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, ya lo escucharon. Ayúdenla. Bueno. I bet there's also, is the atmosphere, like the platform, what people are looking for, is that changing? Do you see any certain like trends that are happening in the food scene?
But I definitely do see a trend, or I do see a change. I know that a couple years ago, everyone on TikTok or on Instagram were talking about how being Latina is now a trend because Bad Bunny and because of every single thing that goes on, and how it's now cool. And I think while that conversation doesn't have a positive connotation, I do believe that the trend is happening in every single aspect of life, including the influencer industry. So I do now see more creators, using a song from Duelo, even if they don't know what it means, but they're using a song, from I don't know, a banda song or something like that, and they're going more they're exploring more further than just Houston. I've seen influencers go to Pasadena, which when was anyone going to Pasadena? So that's been fun. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. That's good that we have someone like you who actually because a lot of the songs probably that you use, would you say that you use because of your background, like you understand them?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
And I feel like, at least for me, that's helpful, like having someone that actually understands them. That they're not using it just because it's a trend, So that means a lot to have someone like you in that position.
Yes, thank you.
And I know you're a food influencer. Has that affected the way that you build personal relationships with your family, or maybe like when you dine out in restaurants? Has that affected in any way?
Yes. So before doing this officially, I could pull out my phone and take a picture of the food. Now, I am not allowed to do that. So if my daughter sees that I pull out my phone, she's like, oh, she's working again. And then she has to patiently sit there until I finish taking food. So I'm not allowed to do that anymore. So that's like for my husband and my daughter. So I won't take content when I'm eating out, but like on a personal visit.
Yeah.
It is also changed because any single person that I meet, and the inevitable question is like, oh, so what do you do? If they don't already know the page, what do you do? And then I laugh and I never know how to answer it. Because I like to think that I don't have a job, but I mean, it is a job. And then I don't know how to explain to people that I take pictures of food for a living. So I just say if I want to say it, then I'll say, oh, I'm a food blogger, or 90% of the time, oh, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. Then I'll do that.
Do you find even we have like older parents, like my parents, they grew up speaking Spanish, and that's like their main language. Is it like maybe difficult or more difficult to explain it to their generation about your role?
Yes and no. My parents are ridiculously supportive of anything that I do, so there wasn't a day where I called my mom or my dad and I was like, hey, I want to be an influencer. No. I started making the videos fully knowing that they were going to be supportive. My mom is like the traditional mom where anything I share on Facebook, even before I was doing this, like she will reshare it or she'll comment like, ay, mija, qué bonito, or yes, and then my dad does it too, like, oh, te adoro, mija, que no sé qué. Yeah. So they were always really supportive. The only thing that they will put in their 2 cents is when I do an interview. So for this, I know they're going to have a lot to say. Que, ¿por qué dijiste eso? Or like, or since hablo mi español medio mucho, like, Meli, oh, my nickname is Meli. Meli, you know that's not how you say that. Se tiene que decir así, eso no es apropiado. Or like, they'll nitpick my Spanish. But other than that, not really. They've been super supportive of everything. And if anything, I'll get random calls on a Tuesday, like from my dad or my mom, like, my dad, because he lives in Austin, estoy tan orgullosa de ti, and then, or I'll go out to eat with my mom and she'll start crying about like how she's so proud of me. So they've never had anything negative to say about any of the content.
That's amazing to have that family support. I'm really glad that you have that.
Thank you.
Y me disculpo con los papás de Esmeralda si pronunciamos algo mal, disculpen. Estamos tratando de aprender el español así como más profesional.
I know, it's so hard.
Yeah.
There's like regular difficult. Spanish and then there's like smart Spanish.
Yeah. It's difficult, but you did a great job, Esmeralda. Again, I want to thank you for coming to the Que Onda studios with us and sharing your experience with us. Is there anything that you would like to add or share particular with our Que Onda audience?
Absolutely. Okay. Para eso también practiqué la respuesta. So I thought a lot about it and I found that people supporting magazines like this, people supporting accounts like mine, it creates a sense of culture, it creates a sense of belonging, and it helps other Latino or Hispanic-owned businesses grow by doing this. Like, even if it just seems like you're just reading a magazine or you're just watching a reel, like, it helps. It truly does help. It shows that we are not alone. We are not just one Mexican-American or Mexican or Honduran or Salvadoran person in Houston. You are part of a community that is supporting other like-minded communities that have the same dream. Porque, and I know it sounds corny, todo lo de si se puede o aquí se viene a soñar. We all have that dream and we have to be reminded that we all have that dream. And the way that we do that is by reading magazines like this, watching reels like mine, supporting other people's dreams that are similar to yours. Yes, so thank you. The summary of that was thank you for doing that because it does matter.
Thank you. I mean, you said it all so good. Muchas gracias por estar aquí, por tus motivos, tus consejos. Te lo agradezco. Gracias, Esmeralda. Ya saben, you can follow and support Esmeralda on TikTok, Instagram, antojoshouston. Thank you so much, Esmeralda.
Thank you.
Que Onda Magazine presentó